today you'll see a jacket that's fully lined. It's got raglan sleeves. It's easier to fit than other types of jacket. I think you won't have an issue with that. I'm also sharing the segments that I find the most interesting. Gorgeous color jacket. Hi sewing friends, I'm Karina from liftingpinsandneedles.com. Welcome to this channel that is all about sewing, limitless sewing, and in today's episode it's about a jacket I made a few months ago. It was one of the sew alongs I do every month over on Patreon for the Orchid Tea, and it's the Joy jacket from Chalk and Notch. This is a type of utility jacket as such that's perfect for sort of spring, autumn. This is a more relaxed fit but not too oversized or boxy. It hits a mid-thigh and is fully lined. For the sleeves you have raglan sleeves, but it's not just one piece that you have there, it's two pieces. Usually with wovens you have a dart that gives you that curve on the shoulder, so that dart has been taken into a seam that goes all the way down, so you have a front and a back sleeve piece. I think that's awesome. If you are sewing the cup size option for C and D, then you have a bust dart. Otherwise, if you're sewing the AB cup size, you won't have a bust dart. I think the bust dart being there for a larger cup is really helpful. You have an exposed zipper. You can finish the top area with a simple collar or with a hood. On the front you have patch pockets, and they can either be rectangles or finish with a slant opening. That's up to you. And if you want to, you can sew a casing all around the hood or collar and the hem and put a grommet and a drawstring there. You can do that or just leave that out if it's not something that interests you. It's designed for woven fabrics. I think medium weight fabrics work best. In the instructions it says that drape is preferred, but I don't really see that as a requirement here because it is pretty straight. There's no features here that require the fabric to drape as such. Medium weight fabrics that would have a bit of a nice drape are like tencel twill, a tencel denim, rayon twill, and then fabrics that aren't too drapey but that would also work is a linen rayon blend or 100% linen, maybe a cotton twill going into the more structured lightweight denim. I think any of these types of fabrics will work whether they have drape or not. That's just my opinion. For lining you can use Bamberg, you can use rayon, you can use cotton lawn, you can use a poly satin. I want to mention that if you are sewing the hood version, when you wear it and it hangs behind you, the hood lining is going to be seen. Maybe you want to go all flashy and use a really nice print inside for your lining. That's fine, but think about if you want that to be seen at the back here, it could ruin your whole outfit if you're wearing something printed underneath and it's not going to match that lining. So I did think about that. You know, my jacket is a solid, so I tried to match that up and use a different type of fabric for the lining of the hood that would match the main fabric, so it's pretty discreet and it's not the nice flashy lining I used for the inside of the jacket. You know, it's a print. I used the lightweight cotton lawn for the lining and that's perfectly fine, but I was not happy to have that print show in the back of the hood there. You also need a zipper that's 26 to 28 inches long. You're going to need some fusible interfacing. In fact, a lot of the pieces are interfaced. I would say most of them have partial interfacing, so make sure you have a nice amount. Chalk and Notch does not have an affiliate program, so I make these garments not because I'm earning commission or anything like that. I do like the quality of the patterns. Not everything I sew is associated to an affiliate program, so if you like this jacket and you purchase the pattern, that's great for Chalk and Notch. I'm just not receiving any commission for this, so I just wanted to make that disclaimer. The sizes available go from 0 to 30 US. That goes up to a 58-inch bust and a 59-inch hip. And as I mentioned before, there are two cup size options. One is grouped A and B. That is if you have a high bust to full bust difference of 0 to 2. And then the other one is C and D, which is 3 to 4 inch difference between the high bust and the full bust. The second version I mentioned, that is the one that has the bust dart. The other one won't have a bust dart. Now, if you have a larger sewing cup size than a D, then in the pattern instructions you'll find diagrams really clear on how to do a full bust adjustment. It makes absolutely no difference that this is a raglan sleeve for the method that you do the full bust adjustment. It's just the arm side is a little different in shape, but you would still adjust to the arm side to the seam line and do all your adjustments below that as per usual, as if it were a just regular rounded type of armhole. I'll leave you my full bust adjustment video down below if you need a refresher. I think it can make a difference. It is a jacket, so obviously you need space to put other garments underneath. You know, you're not going to be wearing this on its own just with your bra, so you will have a nice amount of positive ease. bust and hips is sort of equivalent around 6 to 7 inches of extra space for you to put a garment underneath. It is pretty straight from the bust down, so there's not much waist shaping at all in the design, which is fine for this style of jacket. And I've chosen to sew a size 16 blended to an 18 hip. The only fitting adjustment I made was lower the bust dart by 3/4 of an inch. I took that reference of 3/4 of an inch based on other choke and notch patterns I've made in the past using the CD cup option, and assuming that these designs are based on the same fitting block, that's what I based my decision to just lower the bust dart by the same amount I've lowered them in other patterns. I didn't make a muslin for this one. I was pretty confident everything was going to be good. I think for this style, you could get away with not making a test version. If you have the time and the resources, go ahead. The only thing I was really concerned about was that dart. And you know, you can always redirect the dart and change it after the fact, in my opinion. So I just went ahead and cut out my linen rayon blend. The other area that you might want to check the fit for is the curve of the shoulder right here. And the pattern makes it a little easier for you because it leaves you a larger seam allowance here so that you could adjust and try on and change maybe after the fact. So that is helpful for the fitting. I don't think you would have that many issues with fitting as long as your circumferences are okay and you're choosing a bust cup size option that closely matches yours. About lengthening the jacket, you know, there's always a limitation of how much you can add length to garments that have a zipper because it is sort of limited to that. If you have an extra long zipper, go ahead and add length. I just kept the original length and I figured out the sleeves were fine, so no changes. I filmed all the sewing steps on Patreon. It was several parts. It was pretty extensive to sew, let's be honest, but the end result is so worth it. And I'm going to share with you a little summary. I mentioned before that I'd used 2 different fabrics for my lining. One was a solid to match my hood so that it would match and look pretty, and the rest was going to be in a print. I also mentioned that there's a lot of interfacing involved, so I'm going to share that with you here, all the pattern pieces, modified block fusing, that sort of thing, so you can get an idea of all the little pieces it takes to make the jacket. Here are the lining pieces cut out. This is the front here. It looks quite small, but remember there's going to be a large chunky facing right there. There is the back. Those are the 2 sleeve pieces, and here I have the lining for my hood pieces. These are the side pieces, and there's 2 of them, and then this central piece is just 1. I've cut strips of 1 inch. I think that is nicer. I've got a bit of fabric that's a little larger than my pattern pieces. You can see there on the top, same as here on the bottom, and I've cut the selvage away really carefully, so I just have raw edges of fabric. I have 2 layers here. I'm just going to fold this away, and you've seen me do this before. I'm much more comfortable interfacing this first. Once that's in, if there's any shrinkage going to happen this way, it's going to happen, and then my pattern piece is going to turn out the original length. So I'm just going to go ahead and fuse this all along the center front here. I need to interface the other side because I have both layers here on the ironing board. What I have here are the side panels for the hood. I'm going to take some of these that I already cut and just interface this area right here. So that's one side, and then I'm just going to flip and do the same thing on the other side. Now I can finish cutting this part right there, and at the bottom I have a little excess also. This whole process makes sure that this is going to be the original length intended and that this area is not going to shrink this way when interfaced. So here is my front piece. I had just been to the iron, as you saw, and interfaced the center front here for both layers. I have the paper aligned right along the edge there, and now I can go ahead and cut my piece like normal, mark my dart, mark my notches, and I'll do the same thing for this hood piece, just finish cutting it all off and neaten everything up. I'm doing the slanted pocket, the angled one. I would do the same thing if I was doing the square pocket. What I've done is put a tracing paper underneath, and with a wheel I just marked where I have to interface. So if I fold this away, you'll see a faint little yellow mark right there. I can see it really clearly. And then I cut interfacing in exactly that same shape. So I'm going to place this edge here, and you can see that all this area is the one that I'm going to interface now. I've got the same on the other side. I've got that faint line, and I'm going to match my interfacing over here. This is modified block fusing, but this process is really important for me. I think it's got a great deal to do with the success and having everything match and not having areas turn out smaller. You can see that line there matches the black interfacing on the back. And now I can finish cutting my pocket piece out because I'd only cut it out partially. So what I have here are the bottoms of the 2 sleeve pieces. I've put them right against each other there. One of them is the front, one of them is the back. You also have pattern pieces separately to cut interfacing, but I don't use them. You can see these match right there. This means that the bottom of the sleeves, where the hem is going to be, need to be interfaced. And I'd rather just do that first. So I haven't cut through this. It's just one piece for now. And where the hem is going to be, with my tracing wheel, I also marked the line that I want interfaced. So you can see that faint line there. And I cut my interfacing to match. So I'm going to align the edge of my interfacing and just match it up to the line and fuse. Now I had cut my sleeves partially. I just need to trim it out properly now and cut everything nice and neat. Once I've cut this out, I can cut through the middle and separate these two. These two there are the front facings for the hem. This is the back facing for the hem. This one's a long piece cut on the fold. There is the back facing. This is the hood facing that I still haven't cut out, but you can see that my fabric is slightly larger than my pattern piece. And this is the front facing. This is the largest one. Also interfaced already and a little bigger than the pattern piece. All I do now is cut it really exact and accurate. And then I have facings that are exactly the same size as the pattern piece. It's just so much easier to fuse interfacing this way. Here are the main pieces and the largest ones for the Joy jacket. Here are the two pieces for the Raglan sleeves. There is one that is slightly wider and larger, that is the back sleeve, and the smaller one is the front sleeve. You can see that the bottom where the hem is going to be is already interfaced. You saw that that was block fused. This is the back. It's very simple cut on the fold, and the front, the center front has already been interfaced right there, and that little bit there is just to stabilize the area that will have a buttonhole or a grommet. The hood pieces, this is one of the options of the jacket. You can also cut a collar. So those are the side pieces, and in between these you're going to have this piece. That's just one. There's lots of notches to help you sew that curve there on both sides. That little square for the grommet or buttonhole. This is my pocket option that is slanted right there. There is another one that is squared. These are hem facings. The smallest ones are for the front. The longer one is for the back. That one's cut on the fold. There's the back facing for the neckline and the main front facing. This is the facing for the hood piece. And then the last pieces are these. These are going to be the drawstrings. The shorter one is for the hood and the longer one is for the hem. And we also have a separating. On the inside layer you have facings, and those are extra. Those will be made with the main fabric, and then the lining pieces are a little smaller. But then when you have the lining all constructed with the facings, you basically have almost copies from the main and the lining, with a few length differences at the bottom. So at the hem, you don't just turn up and hem, you have a hem facing. It's a longer piece that goes sewn onto the bottom of the lining, and it's just very interesting construction. I found it really fun to do. So let's just see how to put the main, the lining, the zipper, everything together, flip it, turn it out, and have the finished jacket. What I like about these instructions is that it never separates the zipper, and that's one way to ensure that the bottom and the top edge are always going to be even and everything's going to be the same. Here you can see part of the hood. You are looking at the zipper wrong sides up. I have drawn a white chalk mark to signify this is the wrong side of the zipper. So up here, you're always going to have an excess amount of tape. I've just folded it back like that. The zipper stop shouldn't reach all the way up to the top. You need that 3/8 of space right there, because you need that seam allowance to sew on the hood, the lining piece. If I put this on, this would be on the right side of myself. You have the edge of the zipper right there and the zipper going off towards the side right there. And I have just basted this, going down, going down, going down. And if you look at the wrong side, you're going to have a notch. That is where the zipper is going to reach approximately. It might vary with sizes, but just know that the edge of the zipper is not going to reach the end of the hem. There's going to be a little space there with no zipper. So I think that's good because it gives you a little bit of leeway there. I've got this hand basted on really neatly, and now I'm just going to repeat the same on this other side. Now to sew this onto here, look at this. Just flip the zipper. This is how it's going to look. This is the right side of the zipper. This is the left wear side. Just fold it like this. This is how it's going to be. And this is how you know you need to sew on the other side, like this. So in order to do this, we need to turn the jacket the other way around. So let me just flip it. Okay, I flipped the jacket, so now we have it wrong sides out. As you can see, there is the inside of the jacket here on the side that's already hand basted. And now I'm going to take this edge and start basting it right there as well. The same, leaving that 3/8 seam allowance right there that's free, going all the way down to here at the bottom. And you see the notch, it's going to match the end of the zipper tape right there. And I'm always going to make sure that these are exactly at the same length. Now around the middle here of the length, you also have a notch. So these should match right there. So just make sure you're matching everything and it'll be all good. Just finished hand basting this. I'm at the sewing machine now. This is the top. When you look at it like this, you're going to have 3/8 of an inch seam allowance on both sides. This is really, really even here. I have my zipper presser foot right there. What I do is guide this edge of the zipper foot against the zipper teeth, and that's how I sew my zippers. And doing this pin free is just the very best. It's just so nice. As I get up here, this is going to annoy me, so I'm just going to push it down a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to lift my presser foot and just try to slide this down out of the way. Sometimes it's a bit finicky, but that was fine. It's out of the way, and then we keep going. So remember, I had this folded. I'm just going to sew up to there, up to where the stop is. Now I've turned the jacket the other way, put my needle in, lift the presser foot, and just slide this back up out of the way. Turn the jacket right sides out so you can see it. It's looking really nice. You know, we have this all matching right there, so you don't have one higher than the other. At the bottom, if you are doing the drawstring option, remember we had interfaced these little squares on and marked a little buttonhole. You can do either a buttonhole or a grommet. I'm going to be doing grommets. Okay, so I have the grommets in at the top. I made sure that the marks were really accurate so you get symmetrical grommets. I also have them here at the hem ready. I've got my lining layer on the table, right sides up. Now we're going to take our main jacket and we're just going to throw it on top, right sides together. And now we have a ton of pinning to do. We have to align all the raw edges. Center front will include the zipper along the hood, down the zipper, down the hem. We have to sew it all. One thing I have to mention about bagging it out later, I just prefer to do it through a side seam. Both of my side seams are sewn, but when it gets to the time that I need to bag out something, I will open a gap on one of these side seams, but I'm not prioritizing that right now. Just know that I will be opening a side seam on the lining a little bit later. For now, I'm just going to take my sweet time to pin all of these. I've hand basted all the jacket all the way around, so we're going to head to the sewing machine and sew it all together. To avoid having issues, I'm just going to sew it all with my zipper presser foot, because you definitely need the zipper presser foot for the center fronts because you do have the zipper there. This is the bottom of the jacket. The side seams are going to match, and then right here you're going to have a notch that is going to match that seam that unites this facing to the lining right there, and along the top you're going to have another one here that matches. So you do have plenty of notches that are going to match. What I also wanted to match was that seam with the seam at the back, and then you get to the top and you keep going around the hood. These two seams need to match right there, and then it's the same all the way down. I'm going to start sewing here at the bottom of the jacket around the center back. That's where I'm going to start, and at some point I'm going to get to the center front where I'm going to have the zipper right here. Here we have a seam. Maybe you can see the burgundy thread from when I sewed the zipper tape to the jacket. I'm going to sew exactly on top of that all the way through this center area where we have zipper tape. I have to move this little gadget out of the way, so I put my hand in through the sleeves so I can access the inside of this jacket and get it out of the way. As you see, I don't like to pivot. I like to finish a seam and then start again on the corner. It's just more reinforced that way. We still have our jacket all wrong sides out. We just finished sewing this really long seam, but it's not time to bag anything out because we need to deal with the sleeves here. Make sure you take out your sleeves, that they're not tucked inside the jacket. Make sure the lining is the same, that you have that curved seam right there on the top and that nothing has twisted. And what we have done here is sew these both ends together. So they're right sides together and they've been sewn right there. So I wanted to show you what the end result is going to be, and I'm going to show you how to do it on the other side. Take your sleeve from your lining and align it really nicely. That seam is the curved one, the one on your shoulder. What I've done right here is do a little yellow mark so that I know that that's the seam of the top of the sleeve. And now I have my main sleeve. This seam that comes from the shoulder curve right there, it's easy for me to know because I left the seam allowance at 3/4. I didn't trim it, so that's how I know that's that seam. The inner seam has the small seam allowance, so it's easy for me to know. Now what we need to do is unite them. So let's just make a little circle like this. Remember, I'd marked the seam allowance in yellow. That's the one that's going to match this one right here. Make sure nothing twists. And so basically what I'm going to do is place these right sides together like that. I'm going to sew it from the inside here because it's just easier. So what I'm matching here is the seam of the sleeve that goes from your shoulder downwards. So that's matched. And now you just keep doing this on the round. You need to tuck the lining sleeve inside the other sleeve here, and then you're going to get to the other seam, the one that goes under your arm, the one that matches the side seam. So that is that seam right there, and those match, and we keep going around. Okay, so we have it pinned. You can tuck the lining inside as much as you want right here, and this is the way I'm going to sew. This is how I'm going to put it into the sewing machine. The presser foot's going to touch the lining, and we're going to sew it on the round. So at the sewing machine, this is how we slide this in right here, and we're going to sew this together at 3/8 seam allowance. Here you can see it's been sewn. Beautiful. Wrong sides out. So here is one of the side seams from the lining, and just a little under the bust dart right here. I'm going to measure about 8 inches, about 20 centimeters as a nice little gap. I think it's more comfortable. The jacket is big, you know, why do you want to stuff everything out of such a tiny hole? So I'm just going to tuck that there by machine just to reinforce that there, and then I'm going to seam rip this little section right here. There's no pretty way to bag it out. Just put your hand in and just start turning the whole jacket out through this opening. I like to do little tugs and just let the weight of the jacket bring itself out. With the sleeves, you have to tuck the sleeve right through the lining and the main. So that is the sleeve. Remember, we had pressed the seam before, so we have that crease already done. I've been to the iron and pressed everything. It's looking so pretty. I did a quick try on. Fits amazing. And now I've just done a lot of hand basting before top stitching. I decided I was not going to top stitch along the bottom at 1/4 inch. If you weren't going to do the drawstring option, I think you do need to do it though. But because I am going to do the drawstring, I still need to top stitch that channel right there, so I prefer to just have one seam across the hem like that. This is my version of the Joy jacket. It's burgundy, I promise. On screen, burgundy always looks dark red for some reason. I did purchase yardage of this, and I've made several garments using the same fabric because I just love the color so much. Here is the top. I chose the hood option, and you can see grommets. I do have a video on the channel showing you in detail how to put on grommets, and I actually used the example when I was putting them in right there. I made my own drawstring. It's a really long piece that's just folded in several times and sewn, so it's not a long thing that you have to turn the other way around at all. It's very easy. And here is my lining. You can see it's almost the same color. This is a rayon twill that I have inside. It's lightweight. It's almost the same color as my hood, and when I wear it and this is just hanging open, you're going to see the same color and not all this colorful print that I have inside, which is pretty, but I never want that to be seen there and ruin my outfit and just make my garments look really casual. And yeah, that's not my jam. I never want a print lining to be seen when I wear the garment. I wouldn't want to do contrast with print on this either. Just want to keep it solid because then it's more versatile. If I want to wear something printed underneath, that print is not going to clash with it. So there is the facing inside, the back facing. That's where I sewed on my label that says lifting pins and needles. And here you can see the front facing goes all the way down. That is attached to the lining. I have the same type of fabric for my sleeves in there. You can see them peeking in right there. The fabric is so lightweight and so soft. There is a little pleat. That is a feature that you'll find with a lot of garments that have lining included in the instructions. And then the pleat tapers to nothing here at the bottom. At the bottom, you have a bit of vertical ease with the lining, and that is supposed to be like that so that your lining doesn't pull up your jacket. And at the bottom, this is the hem facing that I was mentioning. That is sewn onto the lining right there. And when it's top stitched, it creates the casing at the bottom with a drawstring. For the pockets, I chose the one that has a slanted pocket opening. Up here you can see the curved seam of the shoulder, you know, that joins the front and the back raglan sleeves together. I've only top stitched on the edge everywhere. I wanted to keep the top stitching discreet. Here is my buster, perfectly placed. I was spot on with the 3/4 of an inch that I lowered it, so I'm happy I did that. And it's just so lovely. It's just a lovely jacket, perfect for spring, perfect for autumn. It's not too heavy, it's not too light. I would have loved to make this in a military green, but I couldn't find the right lining for it, so I settled on this one, and I'm just so happy with it. I just styled it super simple so that you can just focus on the jacket. And yeah, let's see the footage of me moving around in this jacket. This is my Joy jacket from Chalk and Notch. I've got a super colorful cotton lawn inside as lining. My main fabric is a rayon linen blend. I chose the hoodie option. You can also do a collar if you want to. And it's a really nice jacket with nice details, super wearable. You'll see the details up closer. Size 16 blended to 18 at the hips. At the hem, you can do a channel with a drawstring. That's optional. I've got grommets there. You can leave that out if you want to. I didn't modify the length of the jacket, so this is the original length and I like it there. Here you can see my angled pocket opening for this patch pocket. You can also sew a rectangle patch pocket if you want. I really like this hood. It's really nice. Everything's really neat. The zipper insertion. The hood is a 3-piece hood that fits really well, fully lined as well, and I think the raglan sleeves fit super well and are super comfortable. The shoulder shape on the top is perfect with that seam down the middle of the arm. I know I'm gonna really enjoy this one. It's a lovely color. I'm gonna have it for years to come, and I'm really glad I made it after having the pattern for so long. Love this jacket. Sewing jackets, I think, is a real highlight. You don't do it every day, and when you do it, you know, just take your time and dedicate some time to it. Don't get distracted by other things. Put it down when you get tired and come back the next day. Instructions for this pattern are super easy to follow. Really nice diagrams. It's really easy to just go ticking along and you'll be able to complete your piece. Hope the summary footage that I showed you can help you with the last bits that I think a lot of you find a little tricky when you're trying to bag everything out. And I really enjoyed my process. Super fun. It's sort of getting to the weather where I'm going to be able to wear this jacket now in autumn, and I can't wait. I can't wait to wear this one out in real life because it's just been so hot. But I thought it was time to share on the channel. If you're heading into spring, or if you still have a lot of cold coming towards you, you know, a jacket like this could be really great for in between weather. So climate appropriate, I suppose. I'm always making these jacket videos in the hopes to inspire you to make yourself some jackets. Out of all the things that we can make, this is the one where I find there's the most cost savings, because a jacket like this could cost quite a lot, and when you make it, it could cost less. It's not the same with other types of garments, but I think with jackets you can really tell. You know, I know cost is not a thing for a lot of people, and it is a thing for a lot of people as well. For me, I'm in the group of yes, cost is a thing. So I'm just mentioning that in case you want to think about it. That's all from me. Have an amazing day, and I'll see you again on this channel with more sewing very soon. Bye.